Hey Fondant fam, it's your girl Gigi from Flirty Treats and Sweets. Today I'm showing you how to make a back to school pencil bowl, perfect for topping any of your Lux cakes. Now this is what we're going to be making. I will be using Saracino fondant, and it tends to be pretty hard when it comes out the pack. Do not freak out. You just need to knead it a little bit, and if you're still having difficulty with it, pop it in your microwave for about 10 seconds, 10-second intervals until it softens up enough for you to knead it. Now, I do like to wrap my fondant in 2 to 4 ounce little pills just because it's easier to work with like that. So that's what I've done here. I've wrapped it. Now for this project, we are going to be using pink fondant, yellow fondant, and black fondant. Let's get started. I did cut off what I don't need. Only use as much fondant as you need. Whatever you're not using, wrap it back up and set it to the side. So if need be, go ahead and give it a little more of a knead. I'm going to be using a ruler, a fondant cutter, and of course my fondant, which I've already rolled out. This piece is 6 inches by 2 inches wide. That's for the loops. Make sure you clean up the edges, even though you're not going to see them. Still practice, being neat. The piece for the tails is 1.5 inches by 6.5 inches long. Again, always clean up your edges. Now I did already pre-make the middle part of the bowl. It is 2 inches wide by 1 inch thick. I used my cutter to add some lines into my fondant that I'm going to use to add detail later. Now fold this piece in half. This is the piece for your loops. That's your middle. Add a little water or fondant glue. You're going to grab and pinch each side of the loop piece. Pinching it and gathering it all at the same time. Make sure you press it in to make sure it's all tacky and stuck together. Add a little water or fondant glue, edible glue, whatever you're using. And this is what I did. This is a better view of what I did in the middle. This is how I gathered up my ends. And we're going to repeat that on the other side. Now don't worry if your fondant is a little soft. Let it sit for a few minutes to firm up before folding it. Okay, and then just add whatever you need to get each piece to stick together. Press down in the middle. We don't want that to sit up too high. Now fold it over 1/2. Add a little water. And then I'm going to fold over that other half. And just take your time to make sure that's really stuck together. You want to make sure everything adheres before you flip it over, because that's the back side. Now you see I flipped it over. I'm going to add a little water where you see that it's not stuck together. You want that to stick together. Again, pressing it down in the middle with your pinky because you don't want it to sit up too high. If need be, as you go along, make sure you fluff your bowl. Make sure you continue to fluff your bowl. We don't want it to collapse on itself. And a way that we can combat that collapsing, is by adding roll pieces of paper towel into your loops until it dries enough to stand on its own. Now I do have the tails already detailed out. As you can see, I already added the lines. I am using a piping tip to cut the scallops into one end of the tail. Okay. Now I did, pinch this together in the middle because I thought I was going to just use it as one whole piece. I didn't really like how it looked, so you'll see when I come back from this, they're not together anymore because I didn't like how it was coming out. So I cut it apart. I could have taken it out of the video, but I want you all to see that I don't always get it right the first time. Sometimes I have to, rethink, regroup, and redo. And there's nothing wrong with that. I didn't like how it looked, so I cut it loose because I felt like it wasn't going to come together right. So again, I cut it loose, cut it apart in the middle, and I'm gonna add just water. I'm just using regular water, and I do what's called like a W technique where I gather it up. You've seen this before. I did that with the loops. We're gonna repeat it on the other side. This is the eraser side of our pencil bow. Gathering that up, and stop the video whenever you feel like you need to. This is your time, your practice. Make it work for you. Now I am going to roll out a piece of white fondant that I'm going to use for the silver part of the pencil. Now the white fondant is about 0.25 inches wide. It might be a little, maybe a half an inch wide. Um, and I just matched it up to the yellow. And I did add some lines in that, because you know how the pencil, the silver part is metal, so it has like the little grooves in it. I wanted to replicate that, so I used my ruler to put those lines in there. Again, adding a little water directly to the yellow part of the pencil, because I put the white, which will become silver in a minute, right on top of that yellow part. And then you can add any additional texture or detail you feel necessary. Again, this is your project. Feel free to go crazy. Now we're going to get our pink. That's what we're going to use for our eraser. And again, that's about 0.25 inches wide. And I did leave it rounded because I wanted it to look more like an eraser. I didn't want to square it off. But you feel free to do whatever you feel like you want to do. But I wanted mine to be a little round on the ends because I like that look. And I just really pressed that right up against the white and the yellow. That's not actually sitting on the white. It's just right up against it. I did use a piece of rolled up paper towel because I wanted my pencil to have a rounded appearance. I didn't want it to lay flat on my surface. So I used the paper towel roll to give it like a little roundedness so that it'll dry like that. Now you again can choose to do it or not. It's your project. Now drying time for this bow is about 4 to 6 hours for best results. Um, and also if you have a dehydrator, you can put it in your dehydrator at 95 degrees for about 2 to 4 hours. I did make this color brown using white Saracino fondant, and I added a little brown food color. I do use oil base for my fondant. I just like oil based colors better because the gel colors tend to make my fondant sticky. Now I did just put the yellow fondant piece right on top of the brown and used it to determine the size. Now make sure you cut that off, that top part off even, so that you have a cleaner look underneath the yellow part of your pencil. Line that up again, cut again if you need to. So make sure it's very, very neat. And then I just cut that brown part into a triangle. I didn't really measure it. I just kind of used my eye to cut it. I did use black Saracino as well to make the point of my pencil. It was simple. I just laid it on the end, kind of pressed it down so that I could see the ends of the brown fondant. And I just used my cutter in order to cut that away, cut off what I didn't need. And again, we're going to repeat that scallop design using a very small fondant cutter. It was like an oval shaped cutter that I used. I don't know if it was oval or if I had to bend the thing and the thing was just messed up or whatever, but it worked for me. I added a little water, put that pencil point back on the end, made sure I lined it up all nice and neat. You're going to do that too. Okay, and then again, using that rolled up piece of paper towel, so that our pencil piece does not sit flat on our surface or whatever we're going to put it on our cake or whatever it's going to be. We want to give it as much dimension as we possibly can because we are dementia lovers. Dementia. Dimension. I got dementia. Okay, again, adding a little water or edible glue. I'm going to press that firmly into the center of my bow, but off to the side because you got to make room for the other one. Now, I did find that this one was a little tall, so I took my scissors and I kind of cut it down a little bit. And again, just adding that up into the center and off to the side of the bow so that everything looks neat and clean. This is the center of our bow that we did previously. Again, gathering it up in the middle so that it has, that little fluffy kind of gathered look. Adding any detail you need. Always check to make sure it's going to fit before you commit. Add a little water, not a lot. You only need a little. And then put it right in position. Don't be afraid of your fondant. It's still soft and it should be moldable. So don't be afraid to get in there and work with your fondant. Now use a soft hand because you don't want to destroy your detail, but you do want to get it in there. I am going to put a piece of parchment paper here. I'm painting the silver part of my pencil. The information for the luster dust that I used is in the description, in the description area below this video. I just thought that added something. I love that silver part. Yes, it's coming to life. Okay. Go ahead and remove that. And I did, if you remember the little indentations we put into our bow before we put it together, I'm using those lines to paint these white details on my pencil using a very fine brush. I know you're asking, what kind of paint is that? Well, here it is. It's poppy paint in white. Again, use a fine brush to get those white lines in. And we used our ruler to put those lines in there to kind of help us keep everything straight. Now, I am going to put that parchment paper back because now I'm going to add some petal dust to my piece. This is Petal Crafts petal dust. Again, the link for that will be in the description box below. I am using a nice fuzzy soft brush to add that detail to my pencil bow. I don't know, just something about petal dust just makes me feel so happy. It brings everything to life. You know what I'm saying? Like, look how just adding these different colors to your piece brings it to life. Now, what you want to do is you want to try and go at least 2 shades deeper than the fondant that you're trying to highlight. Try and go 2 shades darker, I should say, darker, deeper, whichever one you want to say, than the fondant that you're putting the petal dust on. You don't want to go too dark because you don't want it to look crazy. You want it to look enhanced, okay? And there's a difference. Now, if you feel like you use too much, you can always have a piece of paper towel handy. I do, to try and dab off any excess. Now, because my yellow was too close to the color of my fondant, I did add a little orange to it to make it pop a little bit more. Like I said, if you feel like you have too much color on your brush, take some of it off. You can always add more. You cannot take away. Once you put that on, your fondant is on now. So always keep a dry paper towel handy so you can dust away any extra petal dust you have. Start light, and then if you need more, you can always add more. But again, rule of thumb for me is to try and do about 2 shades darker than the color I'm applying my petal dust to. And what I normally do is I will add the petal dust to those areas that, that would be like shaded where the light isn't hitting. Little crevices, around the edges of your piece, anywhere that you feel like you want to highlight. Now, highlighting is something that you have to learn. You don't want to go overboard. I just tend to put it where they, where they have little crevices. Now would be the time to go ahead and add back any detail you feel like you've missed or kind of distorted when you was putting your bow together. Your fondant should still be soft enough to do this, but not so soft that it's going to collapse it, but not so hard that it's going to break it and cause it to crack. I'm going to continue to go around and just add some detail where I feel like it's needed. Always making sure not to add too much, because again, you can always go back and add more. It's easy to add more. It's almost impossible to a certain degree to take away. So just be careful when adding your highlight to your pieces not to go overboard. Start light and then finish strong, okay? Yes, I love it. It turned out so cute. I hope y'all make it. And if you do, please tag me. I would love to see what you all create. You can change the colors. You can make a red pencil, or orange pencil, any color pencil you want. It's a great opportunity for graduations, teachers' appreciation, you name it. Thanks for hanging out with me, y'all. Thanks, Finding Fam. Be sure to like, subscribe, and check the links below for tools, molds, and more sweet inspo. Until next time, stay frosted.